honor to hand over, although virtually, StrategEast Westernization Award for Legal Westernization to Lawrence Meredith, Director for Neighbourhood East and Institution Building in European Commission, for supporting the creation of a common legislative framework for ICT innovations within the EU for Digital project in the Eastern Partnership countries. The state of affairs in the Eastern Partnership as a whole is various. So in 2020, Eastern Partnership went through a kind of crash test. Eastern Partnership has encountered enormous challenges. Transitional economies of 6 East European countries and Caucasus are facing significant difficulties caused by lockdowns during the pandemic. The imperfection of the healthcare system in some countries has brought the population to the brink of humanitarian catastrophe. The military conflict has unfolded between the two participants of the Eastern Partnership, Armenia and Azerbaijan. And Belarusian authorities have declared the reduction of their participating level in Eastern Partnership to expert level, following the presidential elections in Belarus non-recognized by EU. Mr. Meredith, how successfully do you think the European Union is coping with these challenges? Is Europe still ready to pay great attention to the Eastern Partnership?
Well, thank you very much, Anatoly, and it's an honor to be here on behalf of my colleagues in the European Commission to collect this award, and we're very grateful for your support. Let me start by this devastating pandemic that's hit not only the Eastern Partnership, but not only the European Union, but the world over. The European Union has been very quick to react and to show solidarity with our Eastern partners. We rapidly redirected over 1 billion euros of support to our Eastern partners. This is tackling both the immediate health challenges with 80 million for the public health sector, but above all, the region, as you said in your opening remarks, has been hit by devastating economic consequences. And we've investing over 900 million euros towards the longer term socioeconomic recovery. Let me talk about vaccines, because I know that's on everybody's minds right now. Right now, we're providing over 500 million through the European Union budget to support COVAX, and we are delivering substantial equipment that we've delivered last year, over 11 million items of personal protective equipment, 12,000 laboratory kits, and over 1,500 ventilators. And right now we're providing vaccines to over 300,000 people across the Eastern Partnership region. It's such a priority, and I know it's taken time to get on board. The vaccines has taken time globally to get on board, but I'm proud to say that we're now delivering, and we are clearly saving lives by providing these key medical supplies across the Eastern Partnership region. So I think that shows how committed we are. And last year, in the middle of this pandemic, we set out an ambitious vision, discussed at length with our Eastern partners for the future priorities of the Eastern Partnership. And if I may, I'd briefly list our 5 priorities. Firstly, we're going to invest in economy and connectivity. This is so important to the recovery, and we are committing, we've already built over 550 kilometers of road and railways, and looking ahead, we will look to complete more than another 2,000 kilometers in the coming future. But to be really effective, we believe it's important to build back better. And that brings me to the next 2 priorities: investing in the green transition, where thanks to EU support, over 3,000 public and private buildings have been renovated, reducing carbon dioxide emissions and energy bills of over 120,000 households. Thirdly, it's about the digital transformation. Without digital, we wouldn't even have this broadcast. So I'm delighted to say that we've helped create national broadband strategies, and we're providing access to high-speed data networks for more than 800,000 people. This is what we call the investment pillar looking ahead. But also there's the governance pillar, and that brings us to the 4th and 5th priorities: supporting the rule of law, credible justice reforms, and efficient public administration. Lastly, and in many ways, most importantly, we're investing in fair, gender equal, diverse, and inclusive societies, enabling more than 100 local civil society organizations to provide essential social and legal services. So I'm convinced that we are really stepping up to the mark, and the European Union stands shoulder by shoulder with our friends from the Eastern Partnership. Thank you.
Thank you for this. And One of the challenges faced by the Eastern Partnership countries is the enormous economic crisis, as we have discussed, amid the pandemic. However, thanks to the pandemic, the same pandemic, the development of a new economy, a knowledge-driven economy, and digital transformation in general has become more relevant. The European Union has announced digital transformation along with the green energy, as you have mentioned, as two key priorities and two priority areas for cooperation with the Eastern Partnership countries. But how does cooperation work in this direction today? What projects are being implemented beside those that you have mentioned, especially about the digital transformation, which is important?
Sure. Thank you so much again, Anatoly. Well, I would like to say that the digital transformation is key. If I can talk of my own personal transition, you know, I wouldn't have believed it possible to be having such a discussion only 18 months after the pandemic. We've seen how amazing the outreach can be through the digital methods. So we're strongly committed on the side of the European Union to support this transformation. I'd like to list 4 areas where we think we can make a real contribution. Firstly, developing the infrastructure. This is a massive project, and to give but one example, we hope over the coming years to invest in connectivity, including broadband cables, potentially under the Black Sea, because this connectivity is so important for the Caucasus. Secondly, I think we've all got to grips with digital methods much faster than anybody would have thought possible. And you see that even in the public administrations, we're not always famous for moving fast, but I think you see in the pandemic, e-governance is the new way of doing business, and it's really taking place. All the work that we're doing on vaccines is set up and organized electronically, and that's making it possible to save the lives globally. Thirdly, innovation. We've just actually had an inspiring discussion with Professor John Kay, who talked about obliquity for launching a major project of 250 mayors for economic growth. And you can see that this is embracing uncertainty and managing risk are themes that are key to innovation, and we want to do that with our Eastern partners. And fourthly, of course, with the digital comes risks. I just talked about managing risks, so investing in cyber resilience will be absolutely key. And I'm convinced that in the years to come, we will substantially increase the number of households that have access to affordable high-speed internet. We will massively reduce the retail prices for international roaming between Eastern Partnership countries. We will also ensure that public services are much more available online through interoperability of platforms. And I'm convinced that we'll substantially increase the number of citizens who are therefore digitally empowered. And I believe that together we can be much stronger in facing the digital revolution. Thank you.
Thank you for this. And besides the infrastructure development and capacity building in this region, we also have an issue or a challenge, which is a legislation. Working in the Eastern Partnership region, we see that non-unified legislation in the digital economy is a major obstacle to its development in the region. Many international companies simply do not want to enter the region in order not to deal with 6 different laws in rather small markets. The European Commission is taking steps to support the unification of this legislation. Please tell us what has already been done and what needs to be done.
Well, thank you so much. That's absolutely right. And I guess I'm really proud that this is where EU for Digital is especially relevant. And I'm grateful, as I said earlier, that you've awarded us this award in the legal category. The European Union is, of course, an established legislative power. Our internal market sets the standards across the European continent. And your Eastern Partnership countries are very keen to associate themselves with European Union legislation in this area. 3 countries of the region already have deep and comprehensive free trade agreements. And with Armenia, we also have the comprehensive and advanced partnership agreement. So our objective is to extend the benefits of the digital single market to our Eastern neighbors, as our joint communication last year states. This digital single market aims to help consumers and businesses buy and sell online and looks to facilitate the growth of digital networks and services within a unified regulatory space. So what are we doing? EU for Digital helps identify the gaps in the legislation in our partner countries. And that means we can bring together experts from the ministries and national regulators, both from the Eastern Partnership and from the European Union, And in these expert working groups, we can come to the unification of this key legislation. So it's our technical expertise and legislative convening power matches perfectly with the country's desire to associate more with the single market. And that should make it more attractive for international companies to invest in the region, which is key, as we both said earlier, to the recovery from this pandemic. Thank you, Anatoly.
Thank you. But how optimistic you are in regard of those countries joining the European single digital market in the nearest future, maybe in 3-5 years? I think it's easier rather than to become a full-scale member of EU.
Well, thank you. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, and change doesn't happen overnight. It takes years to change legislation and implement the necessary regulatory and technical means. For example, it took over 10 years for some EU member states to implement our hugely popular and successful Roam Like at Home regulatory framework that allows us to use our telephone on holidays or work trips without incurring massive bills. So we think that with the help of EU for Digital, the Eastern Partnership countries are now getting ready to sign their own regional roaming agreement, which is expected to reduce retail roaming tariffs among the 6 Eastern Partnership countries by over 80%. Looking to the future, to 5G, we've supported the conclusion of a regional spectrum agreement on freeing the 700 megahertz and 3.6 gigahertz frequency bands for use in 5G communications. These are major steps forward. So being part of the digital single market means applying the same or compatible rules, standards, and most importantly, values. And this includes the independence of national regulatory authorities, privacy protection, and data protection. So what's so important is that legislation in key areas is harmonized and aligned, so that with gradual developments in areas such as telecommunications, trade, trust and governance, Eastern Partnership countries are getting closer to the digital single market. This will allow them to enjoy the benefits of faster movement of goods, access to services, EU platforms and networks, and EU opportunities overall. So we believe that the European Union, through EU for Digital, will support that process with technical expertise and concrete projects. And of course, let's see how fast we can do this. That will depend on the countries themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, Mr. Meredith, thank you, and thank you to your team for doing this enormous work in a so important region. And it's a honor for us being here today. And we hope that we'll be able to contribute to this development, positive development in the Eastern Partnership region.
Thank you so much for the award, and thank you so much for your time and this honor that I accept with pleasure on behalf of all my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you.